sustainable and safe cities. We have got Mr. Shyam from Western Digital, who is the lead for smart cities and government system integrators on Western Digital. I think so. Shyam, over to you, and we look forward to a great presentation about how Western Digital is helping the government sector as well as the healthcare sector. The smart cities in are the various technologies which Western Digital has in store for our audience. Over to you, Shyam.
Hey, thanks, Fahim. I hope I'm loud and audible to everybody. Uh, Also, thanks, Fahim, for the wonderful introduction. Does save me a lot of time on introduction. Hello, I am the lead for Smart Cities and System Integrator from Western Digital, which I think most of you in the crowd would today be knowing that it is a storage industry behemoth. So, without waiting for any more introductions, I'll head straight into my presentation today. So we have heard about this concept of smart city emerging in the past 1 decade all over the world, right? So how do you define it? It's basically an urban entity that leverages technology and improves outcome in every aspect of a city's operations and enhances the services for the citizens. Now, if you dig deeper, you'll find that four things come out when you talk about a smart city. One is the stakeholder engagement. The other is the financing that is required, a very supportive policy, then of course huge dollops of technology. So when you talk of stakeholder engagement, you will find that it primarily includes the citizens, the local businesses, the academia, and the administration. So when all four of these pillars come together and you have a supportive policy and financing is available and technology is now in the application stage, you have wonderful opportunities in the space of smart cities. We have primarily identified some 6 segments within a smart city that can be targeted in the short to medium term. Of course, out of these six, we see that the security, the smart mobility, and the business and economy, the local businesses, they are the ones who could quickly profit or quickly benefit out of these initiatives. Now, this is very important because you need funding, and this is a very, very long term project that is being carried out all over the world. So, you need stakeholder alignment at every step of the way. So we believe that if the citizens could be provided security and smart mobility, and it can enable the local businesses and economy, then you can also look at targeting the medium term options of education, environment, and improving the general standard of living. So by short term, I mean maybe 2 to 3 years where the fruits are quickly visible. The medium term, maybe 5 to 10 years. And the long term, of course, is a highly connected city. Now, it's very important to understand that when you talk about smart cities, there is a lot of information flow that primarily categorizes the smart city operations. So you have on the right all the endpoints. Basically, these are the sensors, the smart city cameras, the water gauge meters, the pressure monitors, the environmental monitors, who send data to the edge, which are basically intermediate computing levels, which can process the data and compress it or even give feedback to the end sensors on what action to take if need be. Whenever this data is processed, then it is pushed to the cloud on the back end. If you look the core, the cloud, that is where the big data resides. Whatever is processed by the edge and the endpoints rests on the core. And that is very useful for going ahead with machine learning and predictive modeling. You can do a lot of analytics on this. And hopefully in the future, we will see a lot of new applications, use cases coming out of it. Now, if you look the data that was generated in 2008, this is a very useful fact. 33 zettabytes, which is basically 33 trillion gigabytes that was generated in 2018. This, of course, includes everything, not specific to smart city, but we expect this to explode 5 to 6 times to about 175 zettabytes by 2025. Now, this is a lot of data, and this requires some sort of a storage mechanism. Of course, so that is exactly where WD comes into picture. Now we have the widest, storage portfolio across the industry. So we have a vertically integrated supply chain wherein we have our own NAND components, own flash wafers, using which we can build cards, portable storage, USB drives. Some of these retail products you would already be aware of. Then we are also on the edge, which is basically the client HDDs, the direct attached storage, the enterprise drives and extension drives. And on the cloud, we have enterprise grade products, which are basically system storages, server storages, OpenFlex architectures that are coming up in the latest scheme of things. So WD has one of the widest portfolio in the industry, and that is why we are heavily focused on smart cities in terms of collaboration, in terms of working out new solutions and positioning it in all over the country, all over the globe actually. Now, when you talk about storage, right, you already know that there are a lot of products in the retail and the channel market, but the smart city storage requirements have some very niche necessities. For example, they would have a lot of high workloads, very heavy writes and reads, random and sequential writes, very high storage needs. For example, you need 7 day storage at the camera, 30-day storage at the edge, and in the archival, you need 90 days or 120 days or even 7 years of recording for transactions from banking institutions. So all this requires a very huge cloud center at the back end. That again comes with its own challenges in terms of engineering. How do you reduce the vibration, the heat requirements, the high temperatures? How could they be controlled? Then you also have a lot of requirements on the durability of the products that you end up using. And you require 100% availability, very, very highly reliable operations at the back end. So these are all inputs that we have taken from the market to feed into our new product developments. As I spoke about the endpoint and the edge, WD exists in every sphere, every domain of storage, you name it. For example, on the endpoint, you have the cameras, the sensors, which talk to the IoT platform through a gateway, which are basically your edge solutions. So on the endpoint, we have industrial grade micro SD cards, SD cards. We also have surveillance grade cards. Then when you go to the edge, on the edge, we have our enterprise and the surveillance grade drives. We also have SSDs for quick edge analytics. For example, you need fast facial recognition for a very limited number of people. You could achieve it at the edge without referring back to the cloud. That saves a lot of money, that saves a lot of latency that you would otherwise face. On the cloud, we have a wide portfolio in terms of JBoards, in terms of server storages, and we also build solutions in the market with a lot of ecosystem players, the system integrators to bid for several projects. So I'll be taking you through some of the cloud solutions as well. But before that, on the platform side, WD has now launched some very, very interesting products called JBoard. Now, JBoard's full form is basically just a bunch of disks. So you have the data 60, the data 102. The 60 and 102 are nothing but the number of drives it can fit in. And you have 14 to 16 terabyte drives now coming in. So one single box, imagine, could take care of up to 1.4 petabytes. Now, the higher the drive size, the more the petabytes that can be stored one single 4U slot. This is also existing on the flash format, which is a 2U size with 24 drive bays. And coming to the storage server, we have a server that can accommodate very high performance use cases with dual Skylake Intel CPUs up to 48 cores. This also supports 1 petabyte of storage in the same box. So if you have a very small scale surveillance requirement where the requirement is to store all the footage for 30 days with say 500 or 1000 cameras, this one box would serve all your needs. You can run your VMS on it and you can store all the data you want, and you can run this for 5 years, 7 years. So these products come with very high warranties also. As I said, when you talk about solutions, WD has been building its reputation in the segment, in the ecosystem quite well by signing up with a lot of ecosystem players. Now, we also have a dual controller architecture for small smart city projects where the backend storage is between say 2 to 15 petabyte, 20 petabyte. The requirement is about 30 to 60 days of storage with 1,000 camera requirement. This gives you a very fail safe operation wherein the dual controller gives you access to your data from two sides, so you don't lose the connectivity at any point of time. Now, this is a very smartly positioned product because we see a lot of uptake for it, especially in the surveillance segment. There is also another solution that we have built with a lot of ecosystem partners. Here is an example wherein at the bottom sit the WD products of UltraServe 60 plus 8, which is basically a storage server, as I talked about earlier. It's a 1 petabyte storage with very high performance computing available to you. On top of this, you can run a hyperconverged architecture, an orchestration layer that can basically mimic multiple VMs, video management servers, virtual machines. This solution can then connect to the cameras or the sensors at the front end, which is basically the citizen facing sensors that you would have on the street. Now, this allows you to expand your network, expand your storage, your hardware without concern of losing connectivity or losing the older data. So this scalable option is extremely effective, and we have found a lot of interest from the players that can position this for command and control centers, which take care of surveillance, which take care of ITMS, temperature pressure monitoring, which takes care of medical emergencies, fire services, all of this. And this comes across as a highly scalable module wherein you can use the VMS from a lot of qualified partners, whether it is Milestone or Honeywell or Bosch or Axis. And this gives you a very, very fail-safe operational capability. So that's it for my side. Since I had only 10 minutes, this was the best I could do. I wish to talk to each one of you individually. If you have any queries that you would like me to clarify, please reach out to me at this email ID. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shyam. It was quite an interesting perspective about what Western Digital is doing, and I think so. Within the given time frame, first of all, you completed within the given time frame, but you had covered mostly, I think so, the relevant things, which how you can help, how it's like what new technologies you are getting in and all. So with that, I would like to thank you, and thank you everyone. So with this, we'll be closing on this presentation. Thanks a lot, Shyam.
Thanks. Thanks, Fahim. Thanks, Fahim.